Good evening. Thank you, Yolanda, for that challenging question. Yes and no. That depends how we plan and build those dams. There will be always impacts, but they could be more or less harmful, depending how we go about them. So here's the Amazon, one of the largest freshwater systems on Earth. But as was presented just now, strongly under threat. More than 250 medium to large size dams planned to the Amazon. Maybe not all of them are going to be built, but if they are to be built, what is going to happen is that probably going to have an increase in deforestation. So Leandro showed the decrease of deforestation in Brazil. We are now showing an increase of deforestation in the Andean Amazon countries. And there is no more only the deforestation arc, but now we have attraction points in different places caused by settlements, roads, dams, mining, and oil and gas. So those are attraction points that are bringing people a new access and therefore promoting more deforestation. So the Amazon, we have several different Amazons. In fact, we can have the Amazon Basin, that's the most commonly called like that. It's obviously the watershed of the Amazon River. But we also have the Amazon biome, that's the domain of the tropical rainforest that goes a bit beyond, including what we could call the Caribbean Amazon in the Guianas, for instance. And we have the political or the legal Amazon that is defined by the countries and accepted by the Amazon Cooperation Treaty. In any case, it's very, very important, large size and complex. At the same time, we have countries that are more developed. We have even France as part of the Amazon. But we also have countries that are not well developed as they would like to. And certainly within the Amazon shares of the different countries, we do have communities, areas that are underdeveloped. So hydropower might be needed. It's not a question of being completely green or not. It's a question of the choices that the governments and societies will make. Hydropower is not a clean energy. Absolutely not. But it could be better than others, like fossil fuels or nuclear. And there is enormous potential for hydropower in the Amazon. So what we do, we are talking about the Amazon, the most important natural region on Earth, number one on biodiversity, very important for the carbon stock, but maybe more important than everything, the ecosystem services that the Amazon is providing. Just to name one here is the climate stability. Significant part of the rainfall regime of the whole continent of South America depends on the Amazon. And that has been reassessed and restated last year by this report of Antonio Donato Nobre, showing that maybe what's happening already is that the process of the Amazon interacting with the atmosphere is already weakening, and maybe what we call the flying rivers are becoming weaker than before because of deforestation and forest degradation. So we cannot forget the ecosystem services that the Amazon provide to us. And they are important socially, economically, and ecologically. Therefore, how can we have a greener, more sustainable hydropower in the Amazon? Socially responsible one? First of all, we should try to reduce the need of new dams. That's the first thing to do. How can we go about that? How can we do that in the Amazon or in the Amazon countries? We need to work for energy efficiency in generation, transportation, and consumption. We need to diversify the sources of energy. And there is not only for the ecological damage that could cause, but also for the energy security. If we have a drought like now, we have problems in energy supply because of the rainfall has been reduced. So we should not have just one type of energy source. But there are others that if diversifying energy, we can have less impact. Also very important to decentralize, not just big sources, big dams and big plants, thermoelectric, nuclear and fossil generating large amounts of energy, but decentralized. In the Amazon, for instance, we need to supply energy for the local communities. Maybe you should do that from the local community itself in a small scale biomass or solar. But even the larger urban areas should start producing more energy, as it has already started to happen in some places in Europe. But if we really need it, if after doing that, countries and societies in the Amazon countries decide to have new dams in the Amazon, first thing that we need to do is to respect the rights of indigenous peoples and local communities that are usually affected by the dams in the Amazon. We need to accommodate the different interests. It's not just about energy production, it's about water interests for supply to cities, towns, agriculture, and even the ecological flows for nature. Energy infrastructure projects should be integrated into the local economical interest. Territorial smart planning, for instance, smart development, spatially based. We need to plan hydropower, plan the hydropower development integrated with biodiversity. And we are presenting a tool for that. But when we start thinking about hydropower production or planning the hydropower development, we should also think that it's not just about energy, but we are affecting the region, the watershed and the river in a way that we need to take multiple advantage of that initiative, that project. One important thing, in the Amazon we had more or less 20 years of informal moratorium of new big dams because of the conflicts with indigenous peoples in the area of the Xingu River some 25 years ago. But there were also a lot of mistakes, engineering mistakes. Areas that were, flooding large dams that were flooding large areas without producing enough energy, or areas that were attracting too many people that were deforesting around the dam and therefore promoting siltation to the area. One of the mistakes that we are facing now are that people are proposing to produce energy thinking about the river flow, saying that this is harmless because we have a smaller flooded area, when in fact what's causing deforestation is the association of the dams with the other infrastructure project, particularly the access roads. Those are figures that a study that we've done in the Tapajós watershed with IPAN organization, and we are showing that together the dams with the other infrastructure projects and the access can cause important deforestation. So we need to assess all them together. And as simple as it should look like, we need to apply the mitigation hierarchy as it should. So the mitigation hierarchy says that we should first avoid the impact and then reduce it. What has happened in the Amazon is that we are trying to offset and compensate the impacts with the mitigation measures arriving after the problem. So if we do have environmental license, if we do have all the discussion and assessment before the dams, how come we are putting in place the mitigation measure after the damage on the indigenous peoples, on the deforestation, the migration, the new access roads? So if you just apply the mitigation hierarchy as it should, we would cause much less problem. We have some bad cases in the Amazon already. There were some important discussions in Peru in the last years. Some of the dams were put on hold because of the conflicts with the indigenous communities. Here are some examples of Brazil. Tocantins is not considered fully the Amazon watershed, but is associated. But we have taken this in our report as a bad case. In Tocantins, it has been proved that after the dams, the fish stocks have reduced significantly. Fishermen are now facing problems for their activities. And even the normal river dynamics for tourism, the beaches are not the same, and there have been economic impacts because of that. But if we consider the more recent cases of large dams in the Madeira River in Brazil, like Santo Antônio and Giral, and the most recent one that's not even completely built yet, like Belo Monte in the Xingu River in Brazil again, they have attracted more than 100,000 people for those regions. In some particular cases, in Rondônia State, the deforestation have go six-fold higher than before. So altogether, again, the dams with the migration, the access roads, and the other infrastructure that comes associated with dams can cause, yes, deforestation, much more than the flooded area. So we really need to assess at the basin level the cumulative ecological and social impacts on the watershed, on the land use, on the vegetation, terrestrial vegetation, but obviously on the rivers, the freshwater ecosystems. When we are talking about basin level assessment, obviously we would like to see that done at the Amazon basin level. But that's very difficult to be done, very complex, large, and it's difficult to grasp even. So we are recommending that at least that should be done at the mesoscale. Areas that would go from 1,000 to 100,000 square kilometers. Areas of the size of some of the dams that we have been working with, like Tapajós in Brazil, Maranhão in Peru, and Madeira in the Bolivian side of Madeira. Only Tapajós is around the size of France or 4 times South Korea. So they are very significant, large scale, but they are just meso scale for the Amazon. So at the end, as Leandro already pointed out, if we really need dams, we need to have that done under national visions, national plans, national project development for the Amazon, integrated in an Amazon-wide basin. The Amazon is interdependent on its parts. If we keep deforesting in Brazil, the Equatorian, Peruvian, and other Andean countries, Andean Amazon slopes are going to suffer. The biodiversity on the Amazon part of the Andes is going to suffer. If we keep deforesting the Andean slope, as Yolanda already said, Brazil is going to suffer. So the Amazon is interdependent, and this has been again reassessed and restated by the report that I just mentioned to you, the future climate of the Amazonia. And we now understand that we cannot just take parts of the Amazon, the different national parts. We really need to consider the whole Amazon together. So even countries developing their own national sustainable plans for the Amazon, that would not be sustainable enough. First ecologically, and then economically because of the consequences of the ecosystems that will not be provided for the countries in the Amazon. That altogether seems difficult, almost impossible, but it is possible. And we have come close to that in one case that we have been working for some years. After several years talking to all stakeholders, and after the problems and the conflicts with Belo Monte, only legally Belo Monte construction was suspended 22 times. Our assessment is that Belo Monte might be costing now maybe 100% more than originally planned by the government because of conflicts of demonstration of workers, local communities, indigenous peoples, and the legal suspensions of the work. So after that, the presidents of Brazil decided to bring together the two ministries of energy and environment, and both welcomed the tool that WWF developed. So together we went through training, data collecting on the field, and then we ran the model separated, the three organizations, the Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Energy, and WWF. So that can show that we have a good way to go. WWF with other organizations, but not with the government, assess the impact of deforestation in different scenarios, showing that, again, if we bring together the different infrastructure, the deforestation is much more important with the migration that it causes. So, the process was not complete because after running the model, the government did not put on discussion. We were expecting that would be a basin-wide debate on that local communities would be informed of what was done. We do not know what happened. What we do know is that after that, and obviously after the conflicts that is already starting in the Tapajós watershed as well, after Belo Monte, the Xingu River, the energy authorities decided to put on hold or cancel the most damaging dams. So that can show that the process has a way to go if we work together. Maybe if there was public debate, we could find a common agenda, a common proposition to go forward without conflicts. And here you can see in the maps the areas that we have defined as the most important ones for the biodiversity purposes. So we present our contributions, but we know that we don't hold the whole truth alone. So what we propose is that together, we, with all the stakeholders, we jointly improve the proposals for policies. We jointly propose, make proposals to improve policies and voluntary standards. Voluntary standards of private sector and the finance sector. In recent decades, we have been understanding how important climate change is more and more, and the Amazon is part of that, because the Amazon is not only very important in mitigation of climate change, but also to our adaptation to it. So if we really want water, food, and energy security forever, for all, then we need to take care of the ecosystem services. So we need to take care of the Amazon. The most vulnerable people, it's not me or you here at this table, but the local communities and the indigenous peoples in the Amazon. But even beyond that, the poor communities in the favelas and the slopes of Rio, suffering from the rainfall, or in the dry outskirts of Lima, those are the ones that are going to suffer if we do not face climate change, we do not mitigate climate change, and we do not stop the deforestation and degradation of freshwater ecosystem in the Amazon. And Amazon is amazing. We have been exposed here by some of the services by Leandro, and even the fish diversity. Here is another figure. In the last 14 years, we have assessed scientific publications, and there is one new species presented to science every 3 days, without considering insects and microorganisms. And they are not just fish, but monkeys and mammals and other species. So, this is my granddaughter. What kind of future are you going to leave for your grandchildren? Shall we just consider this meeting just another one? Or shall we together, all the stakeholders, work to make all the difference to keep the Amazon alive? Thank you.